Hello, I'm Juan Ocampo, and today I want to talk a little bit about complementary currencies for financial inclusion, an agent-based model. So the first thing that I have to say is that I'm part of the research graduate research school in Agenda 2030 Sustainability Development Goals, and part of this research school is allowing us to spend some time being critical and researching about different ways we can use the SDGs for the development of society. In my research interest, I had to talk first about goal number 8. So when you do a very close read into the resolution, you can find that economic development has been a main topic in the UN Global Development Agenda. Moreover, they usually are talking in the values, in the introduction, different parts of this resolution about inclusive and sustainable economic growth of both nations and citizens. And when you look a little bit more closer in the targets, you can find that in financial inclusion, economic inclusion, it's a very important part of this challenge. A couple of weeks ago, in September, we had the UN Summit, and there was the Forum in Financial Inclusion for Development, where the Secretary General, Queen Maxima, talked about the importance of financial inclusion, how they were part of the 7 SDGs, and how this financial inclusion was just a means to an end. So this said, we have to talk about a little bit about what's financial inclusion. The World Bank has defined financial inclusion as the means that individual businesses have to access useful and affordable financial products and services that meet their needs in terms of transactions, payments, saving, credit, and insurance, and delivered in a responsible and sustainable way. And this is set by the Federal World Bank, and this is part of their financial access strategy for 2020. Okay, this said, assuming that community currencies as grassroots innovation and social technology tools are ways of giving people the power to access and create their own financial products and meet their own requirements in terms of transactions, payments, savings, and even credit. We cannot argue that community currencies are very important, could be a very important mechanism for financial inclusion. So, through that process, I decided to program an agent-based model, and and if you want to talk a little bit about what's agent-based model, I have another video where I talk a little bit more about it and more specifically about the model that I'm gonna quickly show in a few minutes. But what I wanted to do with this model was to simulate how community currencies or complementary currencies are a financial inclusion mechanisms, and how is the impact of this in the local growth and the citizen satisfaction. And I model the citizen satisfaction as well-being in the way of they can access desired goods. For example, in the case of Kenya, which inspired my work, we can think of satisfaction as people accessing food, or selling their products, or having a job in which before they couldn't access, or just paying for the transportation. And since these effects have a lasting effect, this meant that if I'm not able to pay for my transportation to school, I cannot go to school. That means that my grades get lower, or my math skills get lower, and this has an impact in the future. This satisfaction accumulates and can be negative. So in the case of the local growth, what we wanted to show with this model is a little bit how was the wealth behavior of the agents during time. But now we have to talk a little bit about something very important, and is the assumptions. So in this model, we have a very, very strong assumption, and that it makes it, like any model, a little bit theoretical. And this is that we assume a market in perfect competition. There are several concepts of market in perfect competition, and we will discuss them in a more detailed presentation of the agent-based model. However, a second important assumption is that satisfaction impact is independent of the actor or the products. That means that not everybody will get the same of the product they get, and every product is valued the same way. So which is kind of not, we know that that's not reality, because my interest might be different to your interest, and what you get from food, it's different from how I value food. But it was for this model, this is not the focus of attention. Another assumption is that we cannot join or exit the community currencies. So the model is static in that way. So if I started the simulation with this amount of people in the community using the complementary currency, it will stay like that until the simulation ends. And also that external shops just receive national currency. They don't receive complementary currency. And the vendors that are part of the community and part of this complementary currency community, they only receive complementary currency, which in reality, it's not always like that. And finally, it's not possible to exchange community currencies for national currency in order to make a purchase. So if I don't have the money in community currencies, I cannot buy community currency, and the other way around. Okay, so in this sense, this is the model, and I will quickly show you how a small simulation of the model so you can see it. Yes. Oi. Here it goes. Okay, so basically this is a NetLogo model of agent-based modeling, and what I'm gonna do here is just simulate a community currency where there is 50% potential of employment. That means that you can have half of the population could have or not employment. The number of citizens is 1,000. Let's say 60% of the population could be part of are interested in being part of the community currency or are part of the community currency. There are a couple of shops, external shops, and we are gonna just create. Everybody that joins the community will have access to 80. That's the amount of complementary currency you are entitled to. As I told you, everybody that participates in the community has an offer to the community. That means that everybody is actively part of the complementary currency. So this is just part of some parameters: salary, how much money you get from external job, what's the price of the goods that are sold in the community currency, and the price of the external shops. This is just for reference and for a transaction accountability. So if I set up the model, you will see there are some blue agents, some orange agents, and some turtles. They all have different meanings in terms of the citizens that have that are blue are part of the community. The ones that are orange are not part of the community, and the turtles means that you have an external job. And this is kind of the representation you will have here. We can get deeper in another video. And then, so basically what happens is every day, and this is one click, what happens is people start transacting amongst each other, depending on if you are a store, if you have money, if you have enough community currency or national currency. So at the end of the model, if we turn this model, and I'm going to run it for 180 days, that means like around 6 months, you can see how this behaves a little bit, how the wealth distribution here, you can see how it starts distributing through time. We can see how the satisfaction distributes among citizens. So if you are the higher these bars are at this side of the graph, means that more people are satisfied. So the bigger your satisfaction. This is the number of citizens, and this is how much citizens and how much money they have. So people that are around here have a lot of money, people around here have low amounts of money. And the same with this is with national currency. This one shows the wealth of the shops, so how much wealth are the shops accumulating, and this is just to show you that the money in community currency should always keep straight, constant, since the community currency doesn't have any leakage of wealth, as we discussed in the assumptions. Okay, so we are just about to finish. We have 150 days. So let's see, we want this to finish. Boom. Okay, we have finished. So basically these are results of the these are how the community behaved during this simulation, and we're gonna just go. I have been running this simulation for a couple of times now and repeating the experiments to see that the results are consistent. And so bear with me in this one, that they behave in the same way. I still need to make a statistical analysis of it to be sure that there's statistical significance amongst the results, and that we are consistent in the whole results. But for the moment, let's assume they are. And basically, if you see this ones, in this one I put in this ones I had all the participants being part of the community, most of the participants, and this showed so this meant that this has a little bit different, a little bit, the results might be a little bit different, but they behave in a similar way. So basically I want to point out three results. First, that these community currencies are definitely a financial inclusion tool. Based on this model, what we see is that there's an effect in satisfaction. People increase their overall well-being. As you can see, like there's like people that participated in the community currency definitely increase satisfaction. And however, we have to consider that we're assuming that all citizens are being part, and they offer products, and we assume that they all have entrepreneurial spirits and capabilities, which we are not sure they all have. Anyway, another thing that we should consider with this result is that creating these new markets, we are not sure that the practices that we develop or that are enabled to create this market, that means that I start selling the offers that I have, the products that I create, the food that I grow, are not necessarily aligned with sustainability efforts. So I can be just planting food and having and that is not planted in a very sustainable way, or I'm using water in ways that I shouldn't be using, etc. But this is it's important to have this in mind. Local growth. This we could see that there definitely there's a local growth. There's a market that is being created. People are using the community currency. There's a circulation of money around the community, and the wealth is being distributed amongst them. However, there are some leakages of money in the community if we use external shops. So we can also see that the national currency, when you pay in an external shop, is going outside the community, while the community currency stays constant. That means that the money stays in the community. Yeah? However, we are depending that the market is sufficient, that there's enough market so people and diversity that people can spend with, and the market can grow. And the third and very important is that the simulation showed that there's a concentration of wealth that could indicate inequality inside the community. And this spread of wealth is something that is not intended when we talk about grassroots innovation or social technologies that usually aim for a social well-being. So this is some of the results that are definitely worth exploring. So some insights, and this more as questions, and this coming from the assumption of SDGs, is what are the institutional fields that complementary currencies are embedded in? Are these complementary currencies, do they fit in this financial inclusion agenda? who defines this agenda? It's economic growth a solution? Is this a sustainable paradigm? Because we are talking about economic growth and growing, and who are the stakeholders that sustain this paradigm? So are complementary currencies a threat, an opportunity? How can the efforts be aligned? How can we institutionalize complementary currencies in this context? Is it desirable? For whom? Like, now that we see that this is a financial inclusion tool, now we can have a little bit more of this type of discussions that literature has been discussing for a couple of days now, but this model allowed me, without any empirical and fieldwork, got into these discussions just by using interviews done, because this model was developed based on interviews with Professor Esther Barinaga, who has been researching and in the field community currencies for quite a long time now, and has several publications that are worth reading, by the way, and interviews with one entrepreneur called Will Rudick. He developed a couple of community currencies in Kenya, and has very interesting developments now. His organization is called Grassroots Economics, so check it out. And this said, so when we talk about inequality, we also want to address how is value and the value and inequality assumptions that govern the monetary design. This was a model that was a lot of assumptions, but based on this economic growth assumptions, in the financial inclusion agenda assumptions, how can we address this in a monetary design? And also, how can we quantify sustainability practice in a utility function? Is it possible to embed sustainability accountancy in a governance model? Can you like nudge people to be more sustainable in the way they feel about being sustainable? Let's see. So in future models, what I would try to tap on is what will happen if actors or agents use utility functions. How can we embed this in the model? What will happen if we add an exchange rate to the model? What happens if people can start exchanging money to access different resources? Is this desirable? Not. We will talk about it. And what happens if we create a diverse market? So this is the future topics I would like to talk about, and this gives a little bit of the overall of the analysis that I'm currently addressing. I also have a model where I talk a little bit in more detail about the agent-based model that I developed. So please check it out, and if you have any question, just let me know.